The wind carried the scent of winter, crisp, dry, and faintly metallic, through the small mountain town of Redwood Valley. Snow had come early this year, sprinkling rooftops with soft white powder and frosting car windows like a baker dusting sugar over pastries. Christmas lights twinkled along the eaves of shops on Main Street, and the familiar hum of holiday anticipation settled over the town like a warm blanket. Inside Melvin's Auto Mall, the largest car dealership for 50 miles, the staff buzzed in their own sort of holiday mood, though not the pleasant kind. Salesmen huddled near the front counter, exchanging jokes and sipping burnt coffee. The big glass doors rattled when the wind gusted, and every time they swung open, someone would glance up instinctively, only to slump when it wasn't a big spender. The morning had been slow, and they were hungry for customers who actually had money to burn. Darryl, the senior salesman with slicked hair and a suit so shiny it could reflect headlights, lounged against a display car with arms crossed. "Watch," he said to the younger salesman beside him. "I bet the next person through that door is another window shopper looking for a miracle discount." The younger salesman, Tim, smirked. "It's Christmas season. Everyone wants a deal. They see the sign that says Holiday Blowout and think it means free cars for all." The group laughed just as the door chimed. A gust of cold air swirled in first, followed by a man who stepped carefully, almost timidly, across the tiled floor. His jacket was a little worn at the cuffs, his shoes lightly scuffed, and his calloused hands were tucked into the pockets of jeans that had clearly seen years of labor. His salt-and-pepper beard was neatly trimmed, his posture a bit stiff, and his eyes soft with tiredness. Raymond Hayes closed the door behind him, brushing snow from his shoulders. Tim leaned toward Darryl and whispered, "Told you. Another one." Darryl smirked but straightened up, putting on his sales smile. "Morning, sir. Welcome to Melvin's Auto Mall. Looking for anything in particular today?" Raymond nodded once, polite and a little shy. "Yes, actually. I'm hoping to buy a car. Something reliable, safe, good condition. Great!" Darryl clapped his hands together. "Just so you know, our financing options are super flexible, even for customers with—" He let his gaze flick downward at Raymond's worn clothing. "Less than perfect credit." Raymond gave a small, tight smile. "I won't be needing financing." Darryl blinked, then forced another grin. Of course. Well, we've got a wide range of models. What's your budget?" Raymond paused, glancing around the showroom. A white SUV caught his attention, the newest model gleaming under the showroom lights like a pearl. It was definitely not cheap. He walked toward it slowly, hands clasped behind his back, studying the details. And the salesman exchanged looks. Tim snorted quietly. "Here we go. They always go straight for the expensive one." Raymond circled the SUV, his expression unreadable. He opened the driver's side door and sat carefully in the seat, testing its feel. Then he ran his fingers over the dashboard and murmured under his breath, "She'd love this." "Sir," Darryl said carefully, "just so you're aware, that model is top line. Over 60 grand. Raymond met his eyes. "I know." A few of the other salesmen chuckled under their breath. One muttered, "Sure he does." Raymond asked to see under the hood. Darryl obliged, though annoyance flickered over his face. The whole display was starting to feel like a waste of time. He could already picture spending 30 minutes showing every bell and whistle, only for this man to sigh and say he'd think about it. Raymond inspected everything with surprising attentiveness, checking belts, examining the battery, even listening to the quiet hum of the engine when Darryl turned it on. Then he closed the hood, took a step back, and nodded to himself. "I'll take it," he said simply. For a moment no one spoke. Darryl blinked. "Take it? As in you want to put down a deposit?" "No," Raymond said. "I'll buy the car today." Tim coughed to hide a laugh. Another salesman openly smirked, and one whispered, "He doesn't know the price, does he?" Raymond heard it, his ears turned slightly that direction, but he didn't respond. Instead he said firmly, "I want this car wrapped with a bow on the roof. It's a Christmas gift." Darryl opened his mouth, closed it, and then forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Right. Well, let's sit down and look at numbers." Raymond followed him to a desk in the corner of the showroom. As he walked, the salesmen kept snickering, elbowing each other like teenagers in a classroom. Darryl pulled up a chair for him. "Sir, this car is $62,000, before tax and title. I can show you some alternative options if that's outside your—" Raymond reached into his jacket, pulled out a thick envelope and placed it gently on the desk. The laughter stopped. Raymond opened the envelope and began stacking neat bundles of $100 bills onto the desk. One bundle, two bundles, three. The entire table seemed to hold its breath. Tim's mouth dropped slightly. Another salesman whispered, "Holy." Raymond kept stacking. 4 bundles, 5, 6. Until the whole price, tax included, lay in crisp cash on the table. When he finished, he folded the envelope neatly, tucked it away, and looked up at Darryl. "I said I'm buying this car today," he said softly. "It's for my daughter." Darryl swallowed, face flushing red, the confidence drained from his posture. Of course, sir. Absolutely. Right away. I'll get the paperwork started." Raymond nodded once, but he didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He didn't say anything spiteful in return. He only sat quietly as the weight of the moment pressed over everyone. Suddenly the laughter and mockery felt embarrassingly loud, like echoes of a cruel joke ringing back at their owners. Tim shifted awkwardly, pretending to rearrange brochures just to avoid looking at the man. Some of the other salesmen drifted away, pretending they hadn't been laughing minutes ago. Darryl worked quickly through the paperwork, his hands slightly shaky. Raymond signed everything calmly, patiently, as if he'd done this 1,000 times, though nothing in his appearance suggested a man accustomed to dropping $60,000 in cash. Finally, the last form was signed. Darryl stood abruptly. "We'll get the bow, sir, and get it cleaned. And thank you for your business." "Really?" Raymond simply nodded. As the dealership staff scrambled to prepare the vehicle, Raymond stepped aside, his hands in his pockets, and looked out the large showroom windows. Snow was falling again, thick, gentle flakes spiraling from the gray sky. When the SUV was rolled forward with a giant red bow fixed to the hood, he stared at it in silence for a long moment. Then he whispered, barely audible, "Merry Christmas, Lily," and the first crack appeared on his stoic expression. Something soft, something hurting, something hopeful. One of the salesmen finally asked, the question everyone was thinking, "Sir, may I ask, why this car? Why the cash?" Raymond swallowed hard, his eyes still fixed on the SUV. "She's turning 16 in 2 days," he said quietly. "First Christmas without her mother. I made her a promise years ago that when she turned 16, she'd get her dream car." He exhaled slowly. "Life made that harder than I expected. But a promise is a promise, and she deserves something good this year, something that makes her believe that beautiful things can still happen." The dealership fell silent, and for the first time the men who had laughed felt something other than amusement. They felt small. Raymond stepped outside into the falling snow, the keys of the SUV warm in his palm, and this was only the beginning of what his daughter's gift would set in motion. The SUV's headlights cut a soft golden glow across the snow-covered road as Raymond guided it through Redwood Valley. The storm had slowed to gentle flurries, drifting lazily in the air, and the sky was the dull blue-gray of late afternoon winter. Christmas decorations flickered along the houses he passed, plastic snowmen, twinkling lights, wreaths that swung faintly in the cold wind. Raymond gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling the warmth of the leather beneath his palms. He'd bought cars before, many years ago, back when life was easier, smoother, when the world felt like it would always stretch before him in predictable lines, back when his late wife, Hannah, rode shotgun, teasing him about how he always double-checked the mirrors before driving, even after the car was parked. A hollow ache pressed into his chest. It had been 3 years since the accident, 3 years since a distracted driver on the interstate had taken from him the person he called his compass. He had walked away. Hannah hadn't, and the weight of that still clung to him every day. But Lily. Lily had been the piece of Hannah still left in the world, their daughter, 16 in 2 days, laughing like her mother once did, but quieter now. Brighter, but dimmed around the edges. She tried so hard to pretend she was okay, and Raymond tried just as hard to help her be okay. He drove toward home, an old farmhouse at the edge of town, rebuilt with his own hands, piece by piece over the last few years. As the driveway came into view, he slowed the SUV to a crawl, making sure its tires left no deep tracks that Lily could notice. The truck he normally drove was already parked by the barn. Raymond pulled into the barn's farthest bay, shut off the engine and exhaled shakily. He stepped out, brushing snow from the hood and tugging the barn door shut behind him. The SUV sat in the dim light, its bow slightly askew from the wind, and suddenly The image of Lily's face, surprised, joyful, bright, filled his mind. That moment alone was worth every dollar. He ran a tired hand over his beard, locked the barn, and trudged toward the house. Inside, warm light spilled from the kitchen. The smell of grilled cheese and tomato soup drifted into the hallway. "Dad?" Lily's voice floated from the stove. "You home?" Raymond pulled off his boots and forced his voice steady. "I am." Lily peeked her head around the corner. Her long dark hair was tied up in a messy bun, her cheeks slightly pink from the heat of cooking. "Dinner's almost done." "You hungry?" "Always," Raymond said, managing a small smile. As she turned back to the stove, he watched her quietly. His daughter, his reason for staying upright, his promise. They sat together at the kitchen table, steam rising from their bowls. Lily chatted about school, about finals, about how her best friend Mia kept insisting she needed a boyfriend, which earned an eye roll from her. Raymond chuckled softly. "You do. Need a boyfriend. You're 16, not 40. "I know," she said, smirking. "Don't worry. I'm too busy studying and dealing with drama. Teen boys are exhausting." He raised an eyebrow. "You say that like you've tried." She laughed. "Dad, I haven't." He felt the warmth of her laughter settle into his heart like a gentle flame in a dark room. After dinner, she leaned back in her chair, chewing thoughtfully. "Hey, Dad? Yes? Do you think Mom would be proud of me?" His breath caught. The question landed softly but powerfully, like a snowflake with the weight of the world behind it. He swallowed, fighting the tightness in his throat. "Lily, your mom would be proud of you every single day. Even when I fail stuff, you don't fail. Well, I got a C in math." He smiled sadly. "She'd say a C is just a B wearing pajamas." Lily burst into laughter, nearly falling out of her chair. "Dad, what does that even mean?" "It means," he said gently, "she would love you, exactly as you are." A silence fell between them, warm, comfortable, threaded with unspoken memories. Lily finally stood, stretching. "I'm gonna finish the last of my homework. Do you need the living room?" "No, sweetheart. Go ahead." She kissed his cheek lightly before heading upstairs. "Night, Dad." "Good night." When her door clicked shut, Raymond stayed at the table for a long time. His gaze drifted to the framed picture on the counter, a photo of Hannah smiling wide at the camera during their last Christmas together. She wore a red sweater, strands of her hair curling around her cheeks in the cold wind. He whispered to the empty room, "I hope I'm doing this right." Outside, the snow thickened again. 2 days passed quickly, the town swallowed by deeper winter. Raymond kept the SUV hidden in the barn, checking it each night, making sure the bow was still perfect. Lily spent the days baking cookies for her classmates, watching cheesy Christmas movies, and sneaking into his home office to wrap his gift, a habit she thought he didn't know about but did. He'd hear her tape dispenser clicking and her excited giggles as she whispered, "He's gonna love this." Finally, the morning of her 16th birthday arrived. The sun rose slowly, turning the sky pink and gold. Raymond woke early, nerves buzzing through him. He brewed coffee, set out breakfast, and paced the kitchen like a nervous groom before a wedding. Lily came downstairs wearing pajamas and fuzzy socks, hair tousled and eyes half closed. "Happy birthday," he whispered. She smiled sleepily. "Thanks, Dad." After breakfast, she opened her presents. A knitted scarf he'd ordered months ago, new notebooks for school, a small silver necklace that had belonged to her mother. She held the necklace gently. "Dad, this was hers." "I know," he murmured. "She wanted you to have it someday." Her eyes shimmered. "It's perfect." But as she hugged him, the sadness under her joy was unmistakable. She didn't expect anything more. She didn't ask for anything more. She didn't even hope for anything more. Raymond's heart clenched. Because she deserved more. Because he had promised her more. He stepped back, clearing his throat. "There's one more gift." She blinked. "What?" "Dad, you already—" "Put your shoes on," he said gently, "and come outside with me." Confusion knitted her eyebrows, but she obeyed. They stepped into the cold morning air, snow crunching under their boots. Raymond led her to the barn. "Close your eyes," he said quietly. "Dad, do you trust me?" With a soft sigh, she closed them. Raymond opened the barn doors. Light spilled in, sparkling over the gleaming white SUV with its enormous red bow. He swallowed hard. "Okay, open them." Lily's breath hitched so sharply it was almost a Sob. At first she didn't move at all. Her eyes widened, her lips parting as she stared at the car in disbelief. Then she looked at him, back at the SUV, back at him. "Dad," she whispered. "Is that what I think it is?" He nodded. "It's yours." She shook her head hard. "No, it can't be. Dad, no, how did you—" He laughed gently. "You remember the promise I made, when you were 8, the promise that when you turned 16, I'd get my dream car," she finished, her voice trembling. "A promise is a promise." Before he could say another word, she ran into his arms, full speed, wrapping him in a hug so tight it felt like she was trying to hold him and the entire moment together. "Dad, thank you, she whispered over and over, her tears soaking into his shoulder. Raymond held her tightly, his own eyes burning. The world felt quiet, soft, clean, like the snow around them. Then the moment shattered, because a car suddenly pulled into their driveway, a sleek black sedan, unfamiliar, and from the driver's seat stepped someone Raymond never expected to see again. Lily froze in his arms, her grip tightened. "Dad," she said softly. Raymond's heart began to hammer. The man walking toward them had a familiar gait, familiar eyes, familiar tension in his jaw, and Raymond's blood ran cold. It was his brother, the one he hadn't spoken to in 4 years, the one who had blamed him for Hannah's death. This day, this beautiful day, was about to change in ways none of them were prepared for. For a moment the world seemed frozen, snow drifting lazily in the air, the pink of morning deepening over the horizon, and Lily standing between her father and the gleaming SUV that symbolized hope, renewal, and promises kept. But the black sedan idling in the driveway brought with it a shadow cold enough to cut through even the warmest morning. The man who stepped out of it was tall, broad-shouldered, with the same steely gray eyes as Raymond, but harder, colder. His dark coat flapped in the wind as he closed the door, his expression unreadable. Raymond's jaw clenched. "Ethan," he said after a long moment. "Ray," Ethan replied curtly. Lily stiffened beside her father but didn't step away from him. She looked between the two men warily, sensing the tension even though she didn't fully understand its depth. "What are you doing here?" Raymond asked carefully. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted to the SUV, the giant red bow, and finally to Lily's tear-stained but radiant face. His jaw tightened, something flickering in his expression. Surprise, maybe resentment, maybe grief. Finally he said, "I heard today was her birthday." Raymond felt a sting in his chest. "You've known that for 16 years. Ethan's eyes flicked to him sharply, but he didn't argue. Instead, he inhaled deeply, breath turning to fog in the air. "I want to talk," he said simply. Raymond shook his head. "Now's not the time. Ray, no." Raymond's voice hardened. "Not today." Lily tugged his sleeve gently. "Dad, it's okay, we can listen." He looked down at her hopeful but shaky eyes, and he felt his own resolve wobble. She was always like this, kind, patient, wanting peace even when it was hard, a trait she'd gotten from Hannah. With a slow exhale, he nodded. "Fine. Talk." Ethan shifted his weight, glancing at the SUV again. "Can we go inside? It's freezing." The three of them walked toward the house, though Raymond stayed instinctively between Lily and Ethan, like a shield. Inside, the heat wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Lily hung up her coat while Ethan stood by the doorway, taking in the house he hadn't stepped foot in since before the accident. He noticed the framed photos, Hannah smiling at the beach, Raymond holding Lee as a toddler, a Christmas picture from years ago. His expression softened briefly, but then he faced his brother. "I owe you an apology," Ethan said quietly. Raymond blinked, stunned into silence. Ethan rubbed his forehead, pacing once before stopping again. "When Hannah died, I wasn't thinking straight. I was grieving too, angry at the world, at God, at you." His voice cracked. "I shouldn't have blamed you. It wasn't your fault." Raymond swallowed hard. He had waited years, painful, lonely years, to hear those words, yet now that they were here, they didn't land gently. They reopened old wounds. "You said things you can't take back," Raymond murmured. "I know." Ethan's voice was rough. "And if I could go back, I would. But I can't. All I can do now is try to make it right." Lily stepped forward slightly, cautious. "Uncle Ethan, why come today? Why now?" Ethan looked at her. and suddenly the hardness in his expression melted. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box wrapped in green paper. "Because," he said softly, "your mom would have wanted me to be here today." The room fell silent. Raymond stared. Ethan extended the small gift toward Lily. "She ordered this months before she passed. I only found out about it later. I didn't think I deserved to give it to you after everything that happened. But you should have it." Lily hesitated, eyes wide. Raymond nudged her gently. "It's okay." She took the box slowly, almost reverently. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside lay a delicate charm bracelet. Silver, simple, with one tiny engraved charm shaped like a snowflake. A message on a small card rested beside it in Hannah's handwriting. "For my Lily on her 16th Christmas. May you always find beauty in the world, no matter how cold it gets." Lily pressed the bracelet to her chest and burst into tears. Not loud, but soft, broken, overwhelmed. Raymond pulled her into his arms, holding her as she shook. Ethan looked away, eyes glistening. After a long moment, Lily stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Ethan. He froze, startled, but then he slowly hugged her back, his shoulders trembling. When she pulled away, she whispered, "Thank you." Ethan cleared his throat. "You've grown so much. You look like her." And then he turned to Raymond. "I don't expect us to go back to how things were," Ethan said, "but I'd like to try. If you'll let me." Raymond stared at him for a long time, taking in the sincerity, the hurt, the brokenness that mirrored his own. They had once been close, inseparable. Life had torn them apart, but maybe, it didn't have to stay that way. Finally, Raymond nodded. "We can try." Relief washed over Ethan's face. Later that morning, the three of them stepped back outside where the SUV glittered under the winter sun. "Wow," Ethan said, whistling softly. "This is quite a gift," Lily beamed. "Dad surprised me." Raymond shrugged modestly. "Used car, good deal." Ethan snorted. "Ray, that's a $60,000 vehicle." Raymond tried to hide his grin. "She's worth it." Lily threw her arms around him again, laughter spilling through the cold air. Ethan clapped Raymond's shoulder. "Seems like you've been doing just fine, big brother." Raymond exhaled. "Some days are harder than others, but we're getting there." Snow continued to fall, carpeting the world in soft white. Lily slid into the driver's seat of her new SUV for the first time, the leather seat cradling her like a promise kept. She ran her fingers over the steering wheel, eyes sparkling. "It's perfect," she whispered. Raymond stood beside the open door. "Want to take it for your first drive?" She gasped. Now, he said. Ethan chuckled. "Better teach her before she takes out your ale box." Lily stuck her tongue out at him. Raymond climbed into the passenger seat. Ethan stepped back, watching them with a faint, nostalgic sadness, like he was looking at a life he once knew, and maybe one he might find again. Lily turned the engine on, its low purr filling the driveway. "Okay," Raymond said gently. "Remember what your mom always said when she drove." Lily smiled softly. "Keep your eyes on the road, and your heart open to surprises." Raymond's breath caught. "That's the one." She put the SUV in reverse carefully, glancing in every mirror twice, just like her father did. And as they slowly backed out of the driveway, Ray felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace, the kind that settles deep in your bones, the kind that tells you the worst storms eventually thaw. Later that evening, after hours of practicing around their quiet roads and laughing through every little mistake, they returned home. Ethan joined them for a small birthday dinner. They shared stories about Hannah, funny ones, embarrassing ones, beautiful ones. For the first time in 4 years, her memory didn't hurt alone. It lived in joy, too. And as the night deepened and the snowfall turned soft and lazy, Raymond stepped outside for a moment of quiet. He looked toward the barn, where the empty space once held a secret gift. Now it held something greater, the start of healing. Lily joined him on the porch, slipping her hand into his. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah," he murmured. "I think, for the first time in a long time, I'm really okay." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Mom would be proud of you." He closed his eyes. "I hope so." Lights from the house cast a warm glow onto the snow. Laughter drifted from inside, Ethan's deep rumble mixing with Lily's high, bright giggle. Raymond wrapped an arm around his daughter. "You know," she said softly, This was the best birthday ever. He smiled, eyes shining. And you're the best gift I ever got. They stood together, the world silent around them, snow falling gently like blessings from a winter sky. And for the first time in years, Christmas felt whole again. The end.